All right, so ready to dive into some travel blogs.
Always.
This time, we're taking a look at Anuja's Ladakh and Kashmir adventure.
Yeah, those photos are incredible.
Definitely makes me want to book a ticket. Anuj and his family spent 10 days exploring these amazing regions, starting in Leh, Ladakh. Those high-altitude deserts, monasteries, prayer flags, the whole 9 yards.
And then they wind down the trip in the lush valleys of Kashmir.
Exactly.
It's a pretty popular route for travelers, actually. Ladakh, first for that rugged, high-altitude experience, and then down to Kashmir for something a bit gentler.
Right. But what really caught my eye was how Anuja's trip starts. I mean, talk about irony. A delayed flight because of a bird strike?
On the way to the Himalayas.
I know, right? You can't make this stuff up. Anuj said the airport was total chaos, passengers stranded everywhere.
Ah, the joys of air travel.
And apparently the airline was giving them a hard time about hotels.
Oh, really? That's frustrating. You'd think in that situation they'd be more accommodating.
You'd think. But good for Anuj and the other passengers. They knew their rights and pushed back.
Glad to hear they got a hotel in the end.
Yeah. And hey, maybe it was a blessing in disguise. A comfy bed, a chance to regroup.
I'm sure they were eager to get going, but sometimes a little delay just builds the anticipation.
Totally. And anyway, the next day, they finally make it to Leh, Ladakh. I can only imagine that feeling stepping off the plane into that crisp mountain air, a landscape so different from the city.
Anuj said the contrast between those brown mountains and the Indus River was just striking. You know, that vibrant blue of the water?
Yeah, it really sets the scene.
And then, get this, their journey to Nubra Valley takes them through Kardungla Pass.
Hold on, isn't that one of the highest motorable roads in the world?
That's the one. Over 18,000 feet. They call it the Gateway to Nubra.
Wow. Okay, that's intense.
It's definitely a challenging drive. Winding roads, rough terrain. But the views, I mean, you can't beat that. Anuj described it as feeling like you're on top of the world, looking out over this vast valley.
I bet. Makes you feel pretty small.
Anuj actually mentioned meeting a group of bikers at the pass, and they had brought an Indian flag with them.
Oh, wow, that's a powerful image.
I know, right? It really struck me. You're in this incredible landscape. You feel that sense of national pride, a connection to something bigger than yourself.
It's easy to get caught up in the personal experience of traveling, but there's that shared human element too.
Definitely. And when they reach Nubra Valley, you really sense a shift in Anuj's writing. The pace slows down. He's taking in the simple things. Village kids playing, the quiet of the mountains.
He even mentioned their accommodation having an electricity curfew.
Yeah, no constant connection, no hustle and bustle, a real digital detox.
It's funny. We're so used to being connected all the time. That kind of enforced disconnect might be a welcome change.
Oh, I think so. It forces you to be present in the moment.
Okay, so next up on their Ladakh adventure, they head to Pangong Lake. That incredible blue water, the mountains reflecting in the lake. I mean, the photos are breathtaking.
It's one of those places that just looks surreal. Anuj even spotted some Himalayan marmots on the way.
Oh, I love those little guys.
They're like the unofficial mascots of the region. But Pangong itself is something special. That high-altitude air, the crystal clear water. It's no wonder it's such a popular spot.
And, of course, you can't talk about Pangong without mentioning Three Idiots.
Right, the Bollywood connection.
Anuj said seeing those colorful scooters by the lake brought back memories of the movie.
It's amazing how pop culture can shape our perceptions of a place. Suddenly, you're not just seeing the lake, you're remembering a scene, a feeling from a film.
Exactly. It adds another layer to the experience.
And then, as the evening sets in at Pangong, the temperature plummets. Anuj described it as bone-chillingly cold.
Oof, I can imagine. Did he say how cold it got?
He doesn't give an exact number, but mentions the need for layers and hot soup for dinner.
Ah, tomato soup, a classic high-altitude remedy.
It's not just about the warmth, it's about staying hydrated at that altitude. And Anuj actually used the cold as an opportunity to connect with locals. He mentions them sharing stories about life at Pangong, especially those brutal winters.
That's something you wouldn't get from a guidebook.
Right, those personal stories, those glimpses into everyday life, it makes the experience so much richer.
And it's at Pangong that Anuj really disconnects. No mobile network, limited electricity.
The ultimate digital detox.
I wonder how that felt. Liberating. A little scary.
Probably a bit of both.
But from that digital silence at Pangong, they journey onwards to a place known for its incredible night skies, Handla.
Ah, Handley. Now hold on, I have to ask, did Anuj say anything about the drive to get there?
Oh, he did. And it sounds like quite the adventure.
Give me the details.
Okay, so he compared the drive to a scene straight out of a Bollywood action film. Potholes that could swallow a small car, bumpy roads.
That's the kind of travel detail I love.
Right. Makes you feel like you're right there with him.
So what else stood out to him on the way?
Well, as they travel deeper into Ladakh, he mentions passing military camps, which serves as a reminder of the region's complex geopolitical situation. They're close to the line of actual control with China.
It's easy to forget about those tensions when you're focused on the stunning scenery, but it's a reality for the people living there.
Definitely. And the driver even shares some stories about those extreme winter temperatures.
How cold are we talking?
He mentioned -30 to -40 degrees Celsius. Can you imagine?
Wow, that's intense. So after dodging potholes and braving the elements, they finally make it to Handel.
And as the sun sets, they head to the Handel Monastery, perched high on a hill overlooking the whole landscape.
Anuj described it as a vast plain with streams framed by these towering peaks.
And even though the monks were away at the time, he still felt this sense of peacefulness there.
It sounds like the monastery itself holds this special energy, but I'm guessing the real magic happens after dark.
You guessed it. As night falls, the stars come out in full force. Minimal light pollution, the Milky Way stretching across the sky.
It's that kind of sight that makes you realize how vast the universe is, our place in it, all the mysteries out there.
Makes you feel pretty small, huh?
In the best possible way.
Definitely. So, under that incredible sky, they finally drift off to sleep, ready for the next chapter of their Ladakhi adventure.
Can't wait to hear what comes next. So day 5 in Ladakh starts with a pretty amazing breakfast. Aloo parathas, bread, and jam.
Oh, wow. That sounds delicious. Perfect fuel for a day of exploring the Himalayas.
And they have a pretty unique day planned. A mix of stunning scenery and, believe it or not, science.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, their first stop is the Indian Astronomical Observatory.
Oh, cool.
Home to a powerful telescope perched on a hilltop, like a giant eye gazing at the cosmos.
I love that image. So they got to do some stargazing.
Anuj didn't mention if they got to look through the telescope, but he does describe meeting the engineer on duty who called themselves a star detective.
A star detective. That's amazing.
I know, right? It really captures the spirit of what they're doing up there, unraveling the secrets of the universe.
From this remote outpost in the Himalayas.
Exactly. And the engineer talked about the challenges of working at that altitude, especially during those harsh winters. They even joked that even aliens wouldn't visit during those months.
That's pretty funny. I guess you have to have a sense of humor when you're working in those conditions.
Definitely. And speaking of extraordinary workplaces, their next stop is the MCE telescope.
Now, that's one I've heard of. It's the highest of its kind in the world, right?
That's right. MCE stands for Major Atmospheric Cherenkov Experiment, and it's designed to detect gamma rays.
Gamma rays. Okay, now you're going to have to break that down for me. I'm not exactly a science expert.
No worries. Basically, gamma rays are high-energy particles emitted from some of the most powerful events in the universe. Think black holes, supernova explosions, that kind of thing.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking serious cosmic stuff here.
Exactly. And get this, Anuj's family actually has a personal connection to this telescope. One of their relatives was involved in its design.
No way. What are the chances? Talk about a full circle moment.
I know, right? It's like destiny brought them to this spot.
So they got the VIP treatment then?
You could say that they got a behind-the-scenes tour led by someone who actually helped build this incredible piece of technology.
That's so cool. I'm a little jealous, to be honest.
I bet. Anuj said the telescope operator explained how MACE works, comparing it to a giant gamma ray detective, sniffing out those high-energy particles from across the universe.
I love that analogy. It makes it much easier to understand.
And Anuj and his brother, they're both self-proclaimed space nerds. They were just eating it all up, spent hours exploring the control room, learning about all the intricacies of the telescope.
It's amazing how travel can spark that kind of curiosity, you know? It's not just about seeing the sights, it's about learning something new, expanding your horizons.
Absolutely. And from the heights of scientific exploration, their journey takes them back down to Earth, literally. They continue along the Indus River, which Anuj describes as a lifeline snaking through this barren landscape.
I can picture it now, that vibrant blue against the brown mountains.
And then, in the middle of this rugged terrain, they stumble upon something completely unexpected.
Don't leave me hanging. What was it?
A natural hot spring.
What? Seriously? In the middle of all that?
I know, right? Talk about a welcome contrast. I mean, can you imagine freezing air, snow-capped peaks in the distance, and then the steaming hot spring just begging you to jump in?
Oh man, that sounds amazing. Like a natural hot tub.
Anuj even joked that it was a sign from the universe to slow down and enjoy the moment.
Good advice.
Yeah.
So they took a dip.
He doesn't say, but I like to imagine they did.
Me too.
Yeah.
So after their hot spring encounter, what's next?
They have a quick lunch at a roadside dhaba and continue their drive back towards Leh.
Makes sense. It's a long drive. Got to keep those energy levels up.
But before they say goodbye to Ladakh, there's one iconic stop they can't miss.
Don't tell me. Rancho School from Three Idiots.
You got it. It's practically a pilgrimage site for Bollywood fans visiting Leh.
What did Anuj think of it?
He described it as a charming mix of nostalgia and tourist kitsch. With the vintage cafe and quirky memorabilia, it's like stepping straight back into the film.
I'm smiling just thinking about it. It's amazing how a movie can transform a real-life location into a place of shared memory and experience.
Absolutely. But as much as I could talk about Bollywood all day, I know we need to move on, Anna. Anuj's journey doesn't end in Ladakh.
Right, their next destination is the heart of Kashmir, starting with Kargil.
A town steeped in history and military significance.
And their first stop is a somber one, the Hall of Fame, a memorial dedicated to the soldiers who fought in the Indo-Pakistani Wars.
It's a reminder that these landscapes, as beautiful as they are also places where history has unfolded, where sacrifices have been made.
What were Anuj's impressions of Kargil?
He quotes a soldier at the memorial who says, J&K and Ladakh are like the crown jewel of India. Protecting it is a matter of honor. Powerful words, right?
Definitely. You can feel the weight of that responsibility, the sense of duty.
And then seeing Tiger Hill in the distance, a peak that played a crucial role in the 1999 Kargil War, it must have been a chilling sight.
I can't even imagine the intensity of those battles.
After the Hall of Fame, they visit Gurdwara Pathar Sahib, a Sikh place of worship built in honor of Guru Nanak.
I've heard of that. It's a beautiful example of the region's religious diversity.
And even amidst these moments of reflection and historical significance, Anuj's sense of humor shines through. He mentions indulging in some street food outside the Gurudwara.
That's so Anuj, always finding the time for a good snack.
And their journey continues, taking them over 3 breathtaking mountain passes.
Wow, 3? They really covered some ground.
And as they're driving, they encounter something unexpected.
Okay, you've got me on the edge of my seat. What happened?
A sudden snowfall.
No way. From the desert landscapes of Ladakh to a winter wonderland, talk about a change of scenery.
And Anuj, who calls himself a snow lover, was absolutely thrilled. They found a spot to park and just had some fun, snowball fights, trying to build a snowman.
And of course, no snow day is complete without a steaming cup of hot Maggie.
Exactly. It's those spontaneous moments that make a trip so special.
I agree. So after their snowy escapade, where did they end up?
They continued on their way, eventually reaching Sonmarg. But instead of staying there, they decided to push on towards Srinagar, hoping for a warm meal and a cozy bed after a long day of travel.
Makes sense. But wait, did you say there was another twist in their journey?
Oh, yes, there was. And this one involves a little bit of travel drama.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
They arrive in Srinagar, exhausted and ready for some rest, only to be greeted with the news that their hotel rooms hadn't been booked.
What? Are you serious? That's a nightmare. What happened?
It seems their tour manager had ghosted them, leaving them stranded in the middle of the night with a large group and no place to stay.
Oh no, that's awful.
Can you imagine the frustration?
I can only imagine. It's a good reminder that even the best laid plans can go awry.
Absolutely. But Anuj and his family, they're a resilient bunch. They decided to make the best of the situation.
So what did they do?
Instead of scrambling to find another hotel at that late hour, they decided to push on to their next destination, Pahalgam.
They pulled an all-nighter.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They embarked on a 2-hour drive in the middle of the night, fueled by off-key singing and the sheer determination to reach their destination.
Talk about adventurous spirits.
And Pahalgam, with its stunning beauty, was waiting to welcome them.
Now, Pahalgam, that's the Shepherd's Valley, right?
That's the one. It's often called the Jewel of Kashmir, and for good reason.
What did Anuj think of it?
He described it as picture-perfect, lush green meadows, snow-capped peaks. It sounds like a scene straight out of a fairy tale.
It sounds like the perfect antidote to their stressful travel experience.
They arrived tired, but relieved, and a hot cup of chai from a roadside stall was the perfect welcome.
Sometimes the simple things are the best.
Exactly. They took a well-deserved nap and woke up feeling refreshed and ready to explore.
Where did they go first?
Aru Valley, a scenic spot just a short drive from Pahalgam.
I bet the views were amazing.
Anuj described the drive as a visual treat. Stunning vistas of snow-capped peaks, The Litter River flowing alongside the road, it sounds magical.
And did they do anything fun in Aru Valley?
They couldn't resist dipping their feet in the icy waters of the river.
Oh, wow, brave. That water must have been freezing.
And from Aru Valley, they ventured further, heading towards Chandanwari, the base camp for the Amarnath Yatra pilgrimage.
Oh, wow, I've heard about that. It's a pretty challenging trek, right?
It is. Anuj described the road to Chandanwari as a winding path with breathtaking views. Snow-capped mountains, cascading waterfalls. It sounds incredible.
And did they make it all the way to the base camp?
They reached a point where they could see the glacier being carved into a path for the upcoming pilgrimage, which is a pretty amazing sight.
Imagine the effort that goes into making these remote locations accessible.
Exactly. After Chandanwari, they returned to Pahalgam, their hearts full of the day's experiences.
So a day filled with breathtaking scenery and a little bit of spiritual reflection.
You could say that. And of course, no Anuj travelogue would be complete without a mention of food. He treated himself to some chocolate and vanilla ice cream.
Of course he did. The man knows how to enjoy himself.
And as they prepare to leave Pahalgam and head back to Srinagar, their journey is far from over.
I can't wait to hear what's next.
So, remember how we left Anuj and his family heading towards Srinagar after their Pahalgam adventure?
Yeah, ready for the final chapter of their trip.
Well, they start day 9 with a delightful stop.
Let me guess. More delicious food.
You know it. This time it's an apple orchard on their way to Srinagar.
Oh, wow. Fresh apple juice straight from the source.
Exactly. Talk about a taste of Kashmir's natural bounty.
It's such a different scene compared to those high-altitude deserts of Ladakh.
Right. It's like stepping into a different world.
Kashmir truly is a land of contrasts, isn't it?
Absolutely. And speaking of contrasts, their next stop is a dry fruit shop, which triggers a bit of a shopping spree for the elders in the group.
I can relate to that. My parents always go wild in those kinds of places.
And Anuj, being Anuj, he finds humor in the situation. He even has a funny anecdote about the price of saffron.
Let me guess, he joked about becoming a saffron tycoon.
You know him too well. Always dreaming big, that Anuj.
But hey, why not? Maybe there's a saffron empire in his future.
Who knows? But for now, let's move on from saffron dreams.
What's next on their Srinagar agenda?
Well, they take a rather unexpected detour, a visit to a bat factory.
A bat factory. As in cricket bats.
The very same. Anuj's brother, the cricket enthusiast, was especially excited about this stop.
That's such a unique experience. I love how they're finding these hidden gems along the way.
It's those unexpected discoveries that often make a trip so memorable. And finally, they reach their destination, Srinagar.
About time. After all those detours and adventures.
Their first stop is the Botanical Garden.
Sounds peaceful.
Anuj was a little underwhelmed, though, especially after the grandeur of the Himalayas.
Well, to each their own, right.
Exactly. But their next stop more than made up for it. They visit Nishat Bagh, a Mughal garden with stunning views of Dal Lake.
I've seen pictures of those Mughal gardens. Absolutely breathtaking.
Anuj describes perfectly manicured lawns, cascading fountains, vibrant flower beds, a true oasis of tranquility.
I can almost smell the flowers.
And to add to the experience, they enjoyed some juicy mulberries from a street vendor just outside the garden.
Oh, that sounds perfect. Fresh fruit, beautiful scenery.
A perfect combination. And speaking of iconic Srinagar experiences, no trip is complete without a shikara ride on Dal Lake.
Oh, those colorful wooden boats. I always wanted to try that.
Anuj describes it as truly enchanting. The gentle rocking of the shikara, the serene beauty of the lake, the vibrant life unfolding along its banks. It's like stepping into a postcard.
I can picture it now. It sounds so peaceful.
And their boatman even shared stories about the lake's history and the people who live there.
Adding that personal touch, that human connection.
Exactly. And after their peaceful interlude on Dal Lake, they indulged in a delicious Kashmiri pulao at a lakeside restaurant.
From apple orchards to mulberry trees to a traditional Kashmiri feast, it sounds like Anuj's trip has been a culinary adventure as well.
Food is such an integral part of the travel experience. It's a way to connect with the culture and the people.
Absolutely. So day 10 arrives, their last day in Kashmir. What's on the agenda?
Well, it's less about sightseeing and more about navigating the heightened security at Srinagar Airport on Election Day.
Oh, wow, that must have been interesting.
Anuj describes a palpable tension in the air, everyone glued to their phones, waiting for election updates.
It's a reminder that even when we travel, we're still connected to the larger world and its events.
Travel doesn't exist in a vacuum.
True enough. So as their flight takes off, Anuj looks down at the landscape of Kashmir, All those memories flooding back.
A mix of nostalgia, sadness that the journey is ending, and maybe even excitement for what adventures lie ahead.
I bet he's already planning his next trip.
Probably. But Anuj's Ladakh and Kashmir adventure really highlights the transformative power of travel, you know? It's about embracing the unexpected, immersing yourself in new cultures, and discovering something new about yourself along the way.
It's about those little moments, those chance encounters, those experiences that stay with you long after you return home.
Exactly. And that's what makes a journey truly unforgettable. So if you ever get the chance to visit these incredible regions, don't hesitate. Embrace the adventure and create your own story.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners, we hope Anuj's journey has inspired you to explore, to discover, and to create your own unforgettable travel memories. Until next time, happy travels.